Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Good afternoon, my audience, and you are listening to Iman FM. Iman FM radio, and the show is Learning is Gaining with Shahd. You heard me speaking a few minutes ago, and I hope you're gonna enjoy the show today. I have very special guest with me, but before I introduce her, or I will let her introduce herself by herself, I shall remind you that you can listen to Iman FM on 103.1 FM, and they closed up the studio hotline. Seriously, we have a studio hotline for 0142425 for the people who would like to ring us and ask Louise a question. Louise, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Nice to be here.
Nice to have you here, sweetheart. Louise, would you like to introduce yourself to my audience, please?
Yes, my name's Louise Regan, and I'm the president of the National Union of Teachers, and we're obviously involved in a campaign around school funding at the moment, which I spoke about at the rally last week.
All right, that's interesting. Louise, I will go back a few weeks ago when I first met you, where we were, you remember?
Yeah, we were in Chesterfield.
Yeah, can you give the audience a little bit idea what you were doing there?
Yes, well, it was the Chesterfield May Day rally, which is quite it's a day where we sort of celebrate workers across the UK, but also across the world, really. And I was there as a speaker, so I was bringing solidarity to people, workers across Chesterfield from the National Union of Teachers. But I also talked about the fact that we are facing really big funding cuts in our schools, and that we're organising a march locally. So and then I met you, which was really good.
Yeah. So talking about the march, I would like to start with it as a starting point, and then we will go forward to discuss more issues. But talking about the march itself, can you please tell my audience a little bit about the march? What is the point of the march? When is the march going to happen? Like to give them more ideas about the march itself. What do you think?
Yeah, of course I can.
Yeah.
I mean, it sort of was an idea a few of us have had for a while. So a couple of years ago, I do quite a lot of work campaigning around the National Health Service as well, because I'm very concerned about cuts there. And we took part in a march for the NHS, and at the time we said it would be really good to do something around education because it's such an important issue, really. So when this round of cuts was announced, we were talking about it and thought we should try and do something during half term around the issue of the education funding cuts. And as I said, I'm the president of the National Union of Teachers, and the National Union of Teachers is merging with another union, becoming a new union from September. So I'm going to be the last ever president of the National Union of Teachers, and the first ever president, who was a woman of the National Union of Teachers, was in Sheffield. Her school was in Sheffield. So we thought it would be good to march from Sheffield to Nottingham, from the home of the first ever woman president of the National Union of Teachers to the home of the last ever president of the National Union of Teachers. And our aim during half term, so we're starting on Thursday the 1st of June in half term in Sheffield, and we're going to hopefully start from outside Isabel Cleghorn's school, which is no longer a school, actually. It closed a few years ago, and the name has escaped me now, but I'll remember the name, and I'll tell you what it is in a minute. But we're hopefully starting outside her school, and then we're going to march through to Chesterfield. We're going to end in Chesterfield that evening. So we're going to stop at various places along the way. And we've got a Facebook page, and I'll give you details.
When you say we are marching, who we?
There's a group of teachers.
Yeah.
There's a group of teachers. So some teachers from Sheffield, some teachers from Nottingham, some teachers from Chesterfield, and we're hoping that along the way other people will join us. So parents, students, people that are interested and want to support the campaign for better funding for our schools will come and join us, even if they can only join us for a little period of time. While we walk down their street, or while we walk through their town. We're hoping that people along the way will come and join us. We'll find out about what we're doing. We've got lots of leaflets to give out to tell people about the cuts, and we'll take part in the march with us.
Do you have any other groups supporting you, like for example Stand Up for Racism and Islamophobia? Do you have connection with other groups, or
we don't at the moment, but we are we've said on our Facebook page that people that are interested in getting involved should contact us, because obviously as teachers and educators we are not on this march talking about funding cuts, but we're aware that there are lots of issues in society, and teachers are very active in tackling racism and other issues in our schools. So, obviously if organisations like that want to support us, we would, we would be happy with that, because the cuts will attack everything in our education system. They'll prevent lots of the different types of education that we're able to deliver, and will narrow the curriculum, we think. So obviously doing things like tackling racism and Islamophobia and that really good anti-racist education may be something that ends up being cut. So we would want, we would want support from all those that are interested.
Well, practically, what you are saying is really important. So, what you are saying is really important, and especially related to the teachers themselves. There is something going on. What is this, Shahidi? Sorry, I'm trying. It's maybe some messages. We are receiving some messages here. If we have questions. When you speak about the teachers and their role in supporting different kind of movement, and how the fund will influence on the education. A few weeks ago, I had the ladies with me. They were speaking about the homeschooling. And I've realized that the homeschooling is a separated issue, totally separated issue from the teachers' awareness. They are not aware of it, although it's a lot of things are happening. So what do you think? Do you have any plan in your movement, and all this going in your agenda? What I mean, do you have any way to support those parents who are taking that decision of going towards homeschooling?
I mean, last year we did a very big campaign around something that was called baseline testing. I don't know if you've heard of that, which is a test that they introduced for 4-year-olds in our school. And we were really concerned about that as a union, that for children so young were going to be tested as soon as they came into school. And I had quite a lot of contact when I was doing stalls from parents who were saying that they were taking their children out of school because they were concerned about, particularly in primary school, the amount of testing that young children were having to go through. As you say, teachers generally don't have links when parents choose to homeschool, because it becomes separate really from the school then, and local authorities are required to monitor that, not schools. But we want schools where all parents feel happy to send their children, feel that they're inclusive and welcoming, and that children aren't over-tested so that parents feel they can't send them there.
When we had the discussion with the parents, the issue wasn't about over-testing only, Louise. It was about the kind of pressure interacting with other children is bringing about the children with the special needs. They are not able to reach to specific kind of services, about the fact that, as you said, cutting the fund is influencing on the practice of the children. So there is no more outdoor activities, for example. Today I had a conversation with a couple of children, and they are in different years. One of them is year 7, I think, and the other one is year 5, and I asked them about the changes, and now these changes, they think it is influencing on them. They said, well, it's too much pressure, and they said that we don't have any more entertainment activity like going outside and going for trips. And one of them mentioned to me really something really interesting, but I don't know if it is going to interest you as well. He said, well, they banned the phone now in the school, and the phones were kind of motivation for the children to behave. So, for example, if you ban the phone, then the children have nothing to be motivated for, so they will misbehave. I think if I don't agree with this, because the children should behave anyway, not for giving and taking. But again, it seems like the people who are making the policy, they don't really think about what's happening in reality. What do you think?
No, I think that is a concern. And the other issue is, for some children, they find certain aspects of the curriculum really hard, and the thing that gets them into school is the art or the music lesson that they've got, and those things are likely to be cut as these funding cuts hit. We're already seeing a reduction in those aspects. I mean, I was talking to a teacher the other week, and their child's going to secondary school, and the drama, they've removed all options for drama, and their child really likes drama. So now they're going to a secondary school, and that won't be there as an option. And those things being cut will have an impact on our young people.
What is really worrying me that they are the neoliberalism mentality. The leaders are working that we will select the best 2% of the children, but based on which criteria you are doing this selection? Are you doing it based on how much they take? Are they sponge? They just they have to suck a lot of information. And when you speak to your children, I have 2 daughters, for example, they are both teenagers and they can express themselves clearly. They said sometimes we study only for the exam, and when you hear children telling each other, I will throw the book after I finish the exam, and they show that they are happy to throw the book, that's really hurt you from inside, because it seems that there is no connection between education, knowledge and practice and the growth of these young children. And I wonder, in your as a president of a teacher, a union teacher, what is your perspective of all these policy makers? What do you think they are doing, and why they do it in this way?
Well, I don't know why they do it in this way, but I mean, we don't, you've talked about selection there, and we were really concerned when there was a proposal to reopen, an increased selection, because we think that is a very divisive practice. It segregates children at a young age, and the government said it was about increasing social mobility, but there's absolutely no evidence that selection at 11 increases social mobility, and as a union we're opposed to increasing selection in our schools. But so that is a concern. But also, education should be a lifelong thing. It should be about developing young people who are interested in learning and want to learn as they go along, not children who want to throw out books as soon as they've done an exam, because really they just think it's about learning for that.
Ticking
and then
boxes.
Yeah. So we want lifelong learning for all our young people, and children to be enthusiastic about learning.
I think this is the word, enthusiastic. I think they throw the books because they feel that they are not connected, they are not engaged. And I was thinking about you as a teacher. I believe that a lot of teachers, they do a lot of hard work, especially middle leaders and the teachers, subject leaders, and they are working connectively and collaboratively with each other in the best they can. But with the cutting fund issues, and can you tell, maybe people, they don't really understand how the cutting fund will influence or their children. Maybe that lots of people, when you say cutting fund, they don't really figure out what. Can you tell people more about the influences of cutting fund?
I mean, the government says that school funding has been protected, but there's no evidence of that, and we know for the past few years actually that schools have been struggling. That's not, that the government has maintained the same amount in the pot, but the cost for schools has increased. So every year, things like national insurance and pension contributions have increased for schools, and also the bills that schools pay go up year on year, but they've had no extra money to fund any of those things. But now there is the new, what they call the fairer funding formula, which we don't think is fair at all. We'll see some schools lose out very badly, but the majority of schools are going to lose out over the next 2 to 3 years. So by 2020, 99% of schools will see quite significant cuts, and there's £3 billion, which is a huge amount of money, is set to go out of those school budgets. And the sorts of things therefore that we will lose in our view are support in classrooms, teaching assistants, and we've already sort of talked about, you've mentioned special needs children and the support that they get. Children with special needs will get less support. There'll be less teachers in our schools, fewer teachers in our schools, and we think there'll be a reduction in the subject choices, secondary level, so that children will have less choice about what they can do.
So it's like they are putting the children in the dead corner. You have nowhere to go except special choices. The children can do it. Don't you think this is just to reduce the amount of people who want to go to the university and to transfer the rest to the labouring? Do you agree with this?
I mean, I don't know. I mean, there is an issue with children going on to university now because of the huge fees that they're having to pay to do that, and those student loans mean that students are coming out with a huge debt at the end of a university course, which obviously is very off-putting for some young people, because who wants to start off their life with a big debt because they've been to university, and those have gone up. So obviously, the other issue is we would want there to be some restoration of student grants and support for students to enable all children to have access to universities.
What's really concerning me, Lo, is that even the children when they leave the university, they don't find jobs. And they always there is kind of a great argument: are the jobs in the market good for university? Are the university education good enough for the market? Do they know what's happening here? It is that there is a wide range of problems with education. As you said, education is not about educating today. We are educating for the future. And when I was looking for the curriculum and the policies they made, I don't think the people who did the policy, they understand the meaning of future, unless they are thinking about more money. And I don't think what they are doing will bring more money to the country. It seems that it will going to bring more ignorant people who doesn't know enough, they don't have enough knowledge to socialize and do better life. And in ignorant areas where there are lots of people are illiterate, or they have a little amount of literacy, if I am allowed to say this, the troubles are increased. Do you agree that the relationship between education and crimes and economic is very connected?
Well, I think we want our young people to be as well, really well educated, and that's, the evidence is that people with, higher levels of education, get better jobs, and that is what we would want. But, some of the things that have already been cut out of our education system help with that. So I was at a meeting this week where somebody asked about careers advice for young people in our secondary schools, and that's a service that has been decimated. So there's very little careers advice now. And, of course, those were the sorts of things that helped young people decide where they would go and what would be useful for them in terms of helping them to move on. So, those sorts of services, if we have continuing cuts, we've no hope of restoring support for those sorts of things.
I will speak about the disappointment that cutting fund will bring to the future of these children, as we are speaking about the future. But we should go now for advertisement and then news.
No problem.
Thank you. We are going to complete after the advertisement. Thank you.
This is your local community station, Iman FM on 103.1 FM.
Set me free and make me strong.
Changing Hearts, a programme to inspire, motivate and warm you through and through. Stories of good news, happiness, success and positive change. If you need a pick-me-up, tune in to Iman FM and I'll be right there.
In the city of Sheffield, if you ever have an accident, do not fear. Mr. Compensator is here. He can provide you with a taxi, prestige, or 4x4 replacement vehicle in just 2 hours. Call 0114-3863-386 or visit mrcompensator.co.uk and let the experts manage your claim.
Freshmart Superstore is now open in Sheffield. Enjoy your shopping experience in a clean, spacious superstore with lots of special offers. The largest halal HMC meat counter in Sheffield with a variety of meat, spices, fruit and vegetables, plus kitchenware collections and products from all around the world with free customer parking or for a home delivery service. Freshmart Superstore, 44 Irving Street, Sheffield. Call 0114 244 5862.
Assalamu alaikum, this is Khalil Muhammad coming to you with an urgent appeal. One Community has established the first Islamic education, deaf and special educational needs centre where deaf Muslims and non-Muslims can attend Islamic classes to learn more about Islam using sign language.
However, this centre is under serious threat and we need your Qarz-e Hasna, a beautiful loan, and your zakat to help us keep it open. Please visit our website islamfordeaf.co.uk, that's Islam, FORDEAF.co.uk, or give us a call on 0121 291 7847.
क्या आप रेडियो प्रेजेंटर बनना चाहते हैं या मीडिया इंडस्ट्री ज्वाइन करना चाहते हैं? अपनी आवाज के जरिए अपनी कम्युनिटी की खिदमत करने का सुनहरी मौका ईमान एफएम पर। आइए हम आपको बनाएंगे रेडियो प्रेजेंटर। स्टूडियो ट्रेनिंग से लाइव प्रोग्रामिंग तक की तरबियत हासिल करने के लिए राब्ता करें 0114242051 या ईमेल कीजिए info@imanfm.com।
Equity Law Chambers Solicitors. When your rights are at stake, you need experienced defence lawyers. The law firm of Equity Law. Our experienced team of professionals can assist you in all matters, including family law, immigration, criminal law, drug offences, road traffic cases, fraud and money laundering. Call us today for expert advice on 01709 36 86 03 or visit us at elc-solicitors.co.uk. Equity Law Chambers Solicitors, advocating your rights.
Had an accident? Not your fault. Khan Solicitors, a team of professionals dedicated to winning you 100% compensation with free advice and assistance. Over 15 years of experience assisting you with road traffic accidents, trips, slips, employer's liability. We can recover your uninsured losses, i.e. vehicle damage, recovery, storage and loss of earnings. Khan Solicitors, 351 Abbeydale Road, Sheffield. Come see us or call 0114 258 3399 or visit khansolicitors.com. Terms and conditions apply.
Connecting you to your community. This is Iman FM.
You're listening to Iman FM. Time for the news.
From the Sky News Centre at 2. Europol says the worldwide cyber attack hit at least 100,000 organisations in 150 countries. It's feared problems could escalate tomorrow as the working week gets underway. Also concerns the codes used by hackers could be reused. But IT security expert Dan Raywood hopes increased awareness will help to prevent that.
Hopefully IT departments will be able to roll out to their staff and say, this is why it happened, or even just the very basics, and said, don't be clicking on stuff that you don't recognise, and hopefully containing potential further outbreaks.
Emmanuel Macron has been sworn in as France's youngest leader since Napoleon. The centrist leader was greeted on the steps of the Elysee Palace by outgoing President François Hollande. The 39-year-old has since given his first speech in the top job after beating far-right candidate Marine Le Pen in last week's election. A murder investigation is underway following the death of an 18-year-old man in North London. Police were called to Enfield last night after a fight involving a number of people. They found 3 male teenagers suffering from stab wounds. Hull have been relegated from the Premier League following defeat at Crystal Palace. Russell Hargreaves has been watching at Selhurst Park.
Yes, Andy, Crystal Palace 4, Hull 0. The Tigers down with something of a whimper, it's got to be said. Their away form this season wretched, and boys, it cost them. But Palace now safe with a game to spare under Sam Allardyce. Their goals came 2 in each half from Wilfried Zaha and Christian Benteke, and then Luka Milivojevic and Patrick van Aanholt. Jubilant scenes in the South London sunshine. Palace 4, Hull 0.
Liverpool kick off soon at West Ham as they try to move closer to securing a Champions League spot for next season. In the late game, Tottenham conceals second place with a win in their final match at White Hart Lane against Manchester United. And Britain's Lewis Hamilton's in action right now in Barcelona in the Spanish F1 Grand Prix. The Mercedes man's trying to chase down Championship leader Sebastian Vettel. Hamilton is 13 points behind Vettel in the driver standings ahead of this particular race this afternoon. That's the latest. I'm Andy Hayes.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. You are listening again to Iman FM on 103.1 FM, and we are on Facebook at Iman TV now live, and the show is Learning is Gaining. I shall thank Shannon Daves. Shannon was with us last week, Louise. She was my guest, and she's an American teacher. She went all over the world, different experiences, and she was speaking about the importance of the relationship between parents and family, especially in this time where the cutting fund is really influencing on the quality of education and the amount of education teachers can give in schools. And under the air we were speaking about the poverty. And you mentioned to me that you have a special program in your plan, in your agenda about poverty. Can you tell people a little bit about the relationship between poverty education and how much education is important to take them away from poverty?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I was just talking about our manifesto. So the National Union of Teachers is not affiliated to any political party, but we are very active in leading up to the general election in talking to people about getting out and voting for education. And we've produced a manifesto, setting out our key points really that we want people to raise with politicians and candidates that are standing in their local areas. And obviously the funding cuts is one of those areas, but poverty we know is a real key issue, and we know that increasing numbers of young people are growing up in poverty, and we've had some quite shocking headlines recently about the impact of that. So at the moment we know about 30% of all children live in poverty, and that's not just because of parents not working. That is working families as well who are classed as living in poverty, and the impact of that often is using food banks. I spoke at the rally about nurses using for food banks. We know that working people are having to resort to those things because their salaries haven't increased, but there was a report recently about children who are in homes where there are no beds because there's not enough money in the home to provide that. And the long-term impacts of that we know are significant. Often those children don't do as well at school, don't go on into employment, and actually they have shorter life expectancy, people that have grown up in high levels of poverty. So we know that we need to call on governments to increase money into homes in whatever way, either through the benefits system or through employment and increasing the pay rates of our workers, so that we can move some of those children out of poverty. But also we need to ensure that we provide things in school so that they stay engaged with education, and they get a high level of education.
Well, what comes to my mind while you are speaking is that we mentioned it earlier in our conversation, is about the relationship between poverty and crimes. As less education the children have, as more possibility that they wouldn't be able to find a good jobs or good paid job, and it's more likely they would turn to, if they weren't able to find job, they would be easy victim to criminals who would use them as a crime agent, maybe because they are young and they are trying to find their ways. And we have heard lots of issues with the crime, early age crimes happening. And how do you see this as a teacher, from your experience as a teacher, the connection? Do you see any connection first between poverty, education and crimes?
I think there are links between them. I think as teachers we always want to educate children about respect, about about positive attitudes towards communities, and to teach them the wrongs of engaging in criminal activity or antisocial behaviour. And there's lots of work that teachers up and down the country will be doing to keep young people engaged. And the other thing that we do is lots of additional activities to encourage children, after school activities, to sort of broaden out a child's experiences. But I think you're right, there is a link between those issues, and we have to do everything we can to tackle that, and to support young people to not engage with criminal activity.
My point is also very much related, is that when a child doesn't get the education they needed, and they have no option for work, so what they need, how they will live if their parents are already in poverty and they are not able to cover their essentially principles, their fundamental needs. So the children will be easy to be led to do criminal crimes, and this is our responsibilities as educationists and as a people who understand this kind of connection. Maybe lots of people, they don't really understand this kind of connection, because they think, well, what's the relationship between education and poverty? And that's bring me to the next question, Louise. I spoke to you under the air about having a representative in the parliament, and you don't have. And I'm really shocked. How a voice like a teacher's voice, and these teachers are teaching generations for future. They don't have voices in the parliament. Why you don't have your voice there?
I mean, I think that is one of the difficulties, is that politicians often don't listen to the people that are doing the jobs, you know, and that's one thing that we've talked about quite a lot, is that actually we need people that are making decisions about how schools are run and what happens in our schools need to start listening to the people that are actually in the schools and doing the job. And we've had successive education ministers that we don't believe have done that, who haven't engaged and listened to people's genuine concerns.
So how would you, as a teachers, how would you make in your movement now? As they cut the fund on you, they are putting you in a very bad position. It's a life-threatening, position. Like, you have to survive with your school, you have to survive with your children, and you are going to march from city to city to tell them that this is wrong, what you are doing is wrong, and we are going to raise our fund in any way. We need that fund, and we are asking parents to come and support us. But at the same time, do you think that you have any opportunity, Louise, to make more pressure, maybe to reach to the parliament and someone of your voices go there and tell them that what you are doing is going to destroy the country, is not going to help the country? Do you have any in your plan?
I mean, one of the things that we have just done, we've launched our manifesto, which we've sent out, and there's lots of National Union of Teacher members up and down the country distributing leaflets and manifestos and talking to the public. But we've also got a very good website, which is the School Cuts website, which is anybody can access. So any parent or community member can go onto the website, and the new facility on it enables you to email all the candidates who are standing in your local area and ask them whether they support what we're asking for in terms of funding, and supporting us in our fight to get better funding for our schools. And I think that it's much better if everybody is doing that, so teachers can speak, but if we've got parents with us and members of the community also emailing those people saying, are you going to support this and pledge to fund our schools properly, we stand a much better chance of winning.
Yeah, so your voice now is telling, well, come on people, we have to work together. You are setting your website as a main gateway to communicate with you. You said you have the march. What do you want from the community, from the people in the community? How do you think the connection will happen other than that? So those people, they have your voice now over the radio. And think that some of them, they may have no access to the internet, they may have no access to the march. Is there any other ways that people can access to you, Louise, or they can support you, even in their local hands, as we say? Like, they don't have to go very, very far to the website. They don't have to go very far to to reach your representative all over the city. They need to do something themselves. What do you think these people can do for you?
Well, they can get hold of leaflets, and they can distribute leaflets on their street. So if every person that was listening to your radio show now that lives here phoned up and asked for some leaflets, they could.
Do you have numbers they can call?
There's an email address they can email and ask for leaflets, and they can deliver them to their streets.
Can you give your email address now or it's difficult, you can't remember it?
I can't remember it, but I'll find it for you in a minute. I'm sure we'll have a break and I'll look up.
Yeah.
But the other thing which I talk about a lot at the moment is that people need to make sure they're registered to vote. They've got until the 22nd of May to make sure that they've done that. And then once they're registered to vote, they need to make sure that on the 8th of June they go out and vote, and that they've looked at what the candidates are saying about education, and that they vote for candidates who are supporting our campaign to fully fund our education system.
Yesterday I've read a very inspiring post written by one of the men saying, I wasn't voting for 25 years because I didn't believe that voting is going to make any changes, but this time I'm going to vote for Labour. Because Labour, I'm not encouraging anyone to vote for Labour, but I'm saying how much important is to vote. And he said it's a time now to take this and vote, because if we didn't vote, these people would think that they can do it their own way. And he didn't like what's happening now. So asking people to register for voting is very important. And guys, as you hear, Louise saying that it's the most important. If you can't really do anything to support their group and that support the union, the best thing you can do is to register for vote and for vote for education, because voting for education not going to help you only, it will help your generation and it will help your children as well. Going back to Louise, I didn't ask you about I usually ask my audience my guests this question: what is your perspective of education? What is education means to you as a teacher? You are the president of the union as well. So we are expected to be very wise, yeah.
Well, education is vital, isn't it? And education is about schools, but, obviously people learn outside of school as well. Young people learn in the home, they learn when they go on holiday, that, we learn all the time, from the time we're born, till the time we die, we're learning throughout our whole life. But schools are a really important part of that, and schools should be fun for children. I think children should enjoy being at school, because when they're happy, I think that they make good progress, that they learn when they're happy. And yes, school's about teaching children to read, write and do maths, but it's also about learning about history and geography and the arts. So we want children to have a really broad and balanced curriculum, to learn about other people and other people's cultures, to respect other people. It needs to cover all of those things, not be narrowed. And at the moment, our curriculum is really being narrowed by the amount of testing that happens.
My daughter told me, I don't know if you agree with this expression or not. She said, Mom, I think the last 2 years, they turned the school into military sales, like the children, like in the military system. And you have to do it. And it seems that they are killing that sense of creativity and that sense of, the good naughty, I would say. The good naughty child who is really creative and active and wants to do things in maybe in different way, but he's doing it in creative way. She said, Mom, they are very worried about the litter on the floor more than worried about how the children feel about being in the school and not comfortable. So as a teacher, how would you read the voice of that child?
I mean, I think it is sad, isn't it? I was at a rally yesterday about the funding cuts, and a teacher there spoke, and one of the points she made was that children are more than a score, and there is a view now that children are just a number, really, rather than celebrating, the diverse nature of our schools. And we have very creative, very enthusiastic young people, and we should celebrate that, and we should allow them to flourish in their individual ways.
Yes. The word blossoming may be the word which comes to my mind when we're talking. It's how your flower is going to blossom if you are really putting a very bad seeds around that flower. And putting these children around this system, I don't know, and until this moment, I have been in education, as I told you, I've been in education system now 35 years. Since I was 5 years old until now, I am in my 40s. And I'm trying to, with all this long experience of education, I'm trying to understand what is the mentality beyond these kind of changes. What are you trying to do? When I see what's happening in the Arab world about education as well, because education is connected. Education is a connected phenomenon. What is happening here in England, reflecting what is happening in USA, reflecting what's happening in France, and it will reflect badly in the third world, because we are under anyway control still. Our leadership and our schools are still under control in different ways, and I see if this is happening here in the source is not very good. So what's going to happen there, it will be worse, and that's really scary me as a teacher. Louise, and with this long experience, how long have you been in the teaching sector?
27 years.
27.
I've been teaching for years.
Yeah. So you've been like a quite long experience as a teacher. As a teacher, how do you think this change is happening all the time, and how its influence is going to influence, in your opinion, in the future of the children, from your experience, this long experience?
I mean, I think, as I've just said, really, one of the biggest concerns for us is the narrowing of the curriculum, with a real heavy focus on, attainment at the end of a key stage for a very narrow test, really, and that that does restrict down what children learn. And as you've identified, that for them, they don't like that. Often they feel that it restricts them and it doesn't allow them to flourish. And as you say, it is a global phenomena. There is we talk about it in terms of the global education reform movement, the germ, as we call it, where we're seeing much more impact of things like privatisation in our education system and the impact that is having. So, I think you said Shannon spoke about it last week and her experiences as she's worked in different countries, and we would agree that it isn't something that's isolated here. It is across the globe.
So, what from your perspective as a teacher, the consequences on children is not only is going to be education. Do you think it's going to cause any conflict in the communities? Do you think it's going to cause any conflict in the society going on this pathway? Because I've seen this in Syria. I am from Syria, and I've seen this, how the education led later to a great division between people, and how the curriculum, the way they put the curriculum, led to a lot of hate between people, and it led to that war you see now, and the people not able to come together and even sit and negotiate and speak one to one. And that's because they implant a lot of hate and a lot of division and a lot of me things, and the self-survive, I would call it. Like children now in the self-survive race. I've heard very sad quotation from a child saying, I feel like a horse. I bought me like a horse and said the race, and if I didn't win, I'm out. And I said, you are not a horse in the race. You are a beautiful person who is going to contribute. He said, how can I contribute? And that made me really sad, because she's 16 years old and she was speaking about the GCSE and how she just want to finish that stress and just to leave her life back, to take my life back. And you think, well, this is not education, this is like torturing children, like so how do you think this what they are doing now? I think we have to clarify everything as a teacher from our perspective, and maybe these people will listen to us through the radio, or maybe our voices will reach them in any way, and they will understand that what they are doing is not good in any way, and they are not helping the economic to develop. Do you think that the cutting fund will help the economic to develop?
No, I don't think it will. I don't think at all. I think it's going to have a very, very unhelpful impact on the economy, because obviously we want well-educated people to boost our economy. So anything that cuts funding to schools and increases class sizes and impacts on in that sort of way is not going to help our economy at all.
No, it's a question which comes to my mind. How are you going to compete with people who are not educated? So, as a teacher, do you think that we will be able to compete with people with less education?
No, I don't think so. No, I think, and that's one of the arguments that we're having, is that, we have a very good, education system. We don't want funds taken out of it, and we've already seen a drop. And these, upcoming cuts are going to be very significant. So we need to, everybody's voice really behind saying we need to properly fund our education system so that every child has a fully funded, high quality education.
I will reflect to you some of the stories. And I like metaphors, Louise. I don't know if you like metaphors. Do you like metaphors? Yeah. So I will tell you some of the stories, and as a teacher, I would like to know your understanding of these metaphors, and maybe by transferring these metaphors to the people, we will be able to maybe raise the voice more and raise the awareness towards them, what is happening. One of my friends told me, she's a teacher, and she said, I can feel that all they do are they putting the children back on the cocoon. You know the cocoon? They are not able to transfer, to do the transformation, to become butterflies. They want them to be in that cell all over their life. So they start by it and they end by it. And I said, how did you reach to this conclusion? She said, well, think about the system itself. It's like only taking a specific kind of canned knowledge and then produce canned knowledge. But there is nothing in between. Do you agree?
Yeah, I think what they're saying is that the curriculum is very narrow and very restricted, and therefore it doesn't allow children to develop individuality. So you can only succeed if you're in this narrow bit of, you know, the assessment system, and you pass that. If you don't pass that, you might be brilliant at something else, but nobody sort of recognises that. I think that's what the person who's probably trying, you know, that's how I would see what they're saying, and I think that's right. We have got a very narrow assessment system. It doesn't celebrate the whole child, and there should be much more emphasis on that, really. You know, I think it's a really important thing for a child to be a really good part of their community, to have, you know, good social skills, to be very respectful. There's nothing that measures whether a child does that or not. You know, those parts of a child aren't measured, and they can be very vital. Children can be really good artists, very creative writers. If we look at the new writing assessment, it doesn't look at whether a child is a creative writer. It looks at whether they put very narrow, rigid bits of grammar into their writing. So they might be classed as an unsuccessful writer. They might fail at writing, but actually be able to write very creative stories that people really enjoy reading, but still be deemed to be a failure.
Yeah. Another metaphor came. It said, well, the main issue from all is happening in the education system is to create people who doesn't have a voice. So you have no power, you have no voice, because you've been in ideological way, you've been manipulated, and you've been designed and shaped. Your brain has been shaped and manipulated in a way that you won't be able to tell your voice, to tell your opinion. Your voices won't be heard, and then they can do, the people in power who have the power of the money and the power of authority, they can do whatever they want. So we are going back to the dictatorship. Do you agree?
Well, I don't know whether we're going back to, but I think teachers work really hard to enable children to develop an ability to question and to have a voice. In fact, I was reading something on Facebook today which a teacher posted about her school council and the work she's doing at the moment to to link what's happening outside of school, so what's happening in the general election, to her school council. So she's got people reading the different manifestos, and then the young people are going to be talking about those, and then they'll have a sort of mini election in their school. And I thought that, those are the sorts of things that schools should be doing. Young people should be taught to understand that there's a political process in our country and that they're part of it, and that they can be involved in those processes, because it's important. It's important that they have a voice. So I think schools are doing the best they can, and in many cases, like that example, they're doing a really good job of teaching children about those things. Whether the government, or whether those people in power want us to do as much of that or not, I don't know. But I think it is important that we educate children in that way.
So we'll go to the advertisement. Maybe that will give you a chance to find Louise. Okay.
Equipping the generation towards a cohesive society. This is Iman FM.
अस्सलाम वालेकुम तारक हुसैन तुसां वास्ते प्रोग्राम की नी काए रिया है पठवार ने रंग ईमान एफएम पर जेड़ा तुसां दे प्रोग्राम पेश करया करसां शामी 8 तो की नी के 10 बजे तक आर बदारे ए सुनना ना भूले सिर्फ ईमान एफएम पर पठवार ने रंग तारक हुसैन ने संग
Khan Solicitors, experienced criminal defence lawyers in defending your rights. We can assist you get the best possible outcome if you're involved in any criminal matters, including murder, drug offences, sexual offences including grooming, terrorism, fraud and money laundering. We can provide free advice and assistance 24/7 at the police station. Call us on 0114 258 3399 at 351 Abbeydale Road, Sheffield. Visit us at khansolicitors.com. Over 20 years experience in defending your rights.
क्या आप बच्चों की शादी के सिलसिले में परेशान हैं? क्या आप बर्तानिया में ही बच्चों की शादी करना चाहते हैं? क्या आप एक अच्छे रिश्ते की तलाश में हैं? अगर इन सवालों का जवाब हाँ में है, तो आपका मसला हल हो गया। बर्तानिया में रिहाइश पजीर आला तालीम याफ्ता किसी भी बरादरी के अच्छे रिश्तों के लिए आप राब्ता मैरिज हेल्पलाइन से इस टेलीफोन नंबर पर राब्ता कायम करें 0114 2425 400। राब्ता मैरिज हेल्पलाइन मुसलमान खानदानों को करीब लाने का राब्ता।
Coversure Insurance Rotherham are your friendly local brokers who can insure all your needs, whether it is for your own car, home or property you let. We also have specialist insurers for your shop, restaurants and takeaways. We can cover all aspects of the motor trade and we have some excellent rates for taxis, minibuses and commercial vehicles, including fleet policies. All written quotes can be beaten. Please call us today on 01709 556 230. We are open from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Monday to Friday.
Sheffield's finest buffet restaurant, Mirpuri Dera, reviving the taste of Asian subcontinent. Extensive buffet with more than 40 dishes.
नई इंतजामिया, नया साफ सुथरा माहौल, मुनफरिद खाने, 40 से ज़ायद डिशेस, पार्टी ऑर्गेनाइजर, मशरकी रवायात का अलंबरदार, हलाल फूड.
Mirpuri Dera, Stanifeth Road, Darnell, 0114 244 9199 under new management.
जेड़ा भी पाए एक बारी फेरा, वो आवे बार-बार मीरपुरी डेरा.
अस्सलाम वालेकुम. हम आपके शुक्रगुजार हैं कि आपने अल हबीब वेलफेयर फाउंडेशन के साथ भरपूर तावन किया. आपके ज़कात, सदक़ात, फिदिया और सदक़ातुल फ़ितर बगैर किसी कमी के हम इंतहाई गरीब पसमानदा इलाकों के यतीमों, बेवाओं, माज़ूरों और ज़रूरतमंदों तक पहुँचाते हैं. अल्लाह ताला आपके तावन को कबूलियत का आला दर्जा अता फरमाए.
For more information, please contact Maulana Aslam Zaid on 0789 454 0303 alhabibwelfarefoundation.co.uk.
In a world where accident claims are poorly managed and the referral fees paid are so low, and just when all hope is lost in the city of Sheffield, a hero emerges. A hero so powerful, one phone number is all you need. A hero named Mr. Compensator. For your referral fee of £2,000, call Mr. Compensator now on 0114 3863 386. Terms and conditions apply.
Locally at 103.1 on FM. Globally at imanfm.com on the internet. This is Iman FM.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh again. Of course, you are listening to Learning is Gaining with Dr. Shahd Salha on Iman FM on 103.1 FM. And we have the Facebook running TV online, so you can see us on the Iman TV and then listen to us at the same time. Of course, we are speaking about education, and I told you before my audience that the issue of education, as Louise said as well, is not education about only schooling. It's a long life process, and we are learning every day. As you know, this show is learning is gaining. That you will always gain when you learn. As a teacher, Louise insists in the fact that schools can give children more opportunity, more than learning. It can give them the opportunity to know each other and to celebrate their diversity, and to celebrate the creativity. However, the school would not be able to do so if they cut the fund on them. The schools are now in a very bad position because they are in a direct attack, if I'm allowed to say this, themselves and the NHS. These two very important services to keep the communities together and to educate for future for our children. Before the advertisement, I was speaking with Louise about the metaphors. However, before we go further, I would like to give you a number which you can call to either ask about the march or to ask about leafleting, some leaflets about the march. This number is 077-394-89609. Again, I will slowly. 077-3948-9609. You can text this number to ask either about the march, and then the lady who is in the number will respond back by either texting or by directing you to what you need to do. Or you can ask about the leafleting if you are interested. If you can't go to the march, which I will ask again Louise about the march so she can give you more information. as they have a website themselves, and they have it's a very, very rich website which you can access easily, and it's accessible for everybody. There is an email address on the website as well you can use to email them and express your wishes to support. If you can't do the march, or you can't raise a fund to support schools, then you can email your MPs and explain to them your support to education, and that you want to support the teachers who are fighting to save the fund and keep the fund in the school. At the same time, if you can't do any of these, you can register for voting and vote for these people, because these people are fighting for your future, children's future, basically. I think I was thinking about it, Louise. One of my friends told me, the most children in danger of the cutting fund are the English children. And I told her why. She said because they speak only one language, and cutting fund will not allow them to learn more languages. One of the issues will influence, but from her perspective, she said in the long run they will think that second language is a luxury, and they will take the second language away from the children. And she said, well, children who are from different backgrounds, they have their own local languages to be spoken at home, so they have more advantages to learn about different cultures and different languages. But English children, they will be very limited to their own English, and this means less opportunities. Do you agree?
I mean, I think there has been cuts to the languages teaching in our secondary schools. So we sort of vary depending on who's in government and the who's running education, about whether we're going to be teaching everybody's going to be learning a second language or not. So, and I think learning languages is a really important thing to do. I think you're right, it is a really good skill to have second languages, but as you've identified, these funding cuts won't help that. They will exacerbate that, because if there isn't the money, then people won't be employed in schools to teach languages. So it's important, again, that's another reason it's important for us to fight for funding to ensure that our children get access to a broad curriculum, not just English and maths.
That's very important. Louise, as a teacher, and as you see these young children, you were teaching which age?
Primary
school. Yeah. As you were a primary teacher for, you said, 27 years, and you see these young children who are coming, maybe say you couldn't stop that cutting fund issues, you weren't able as a teacher to do much about it. How would you see the future of this young in 5 years, these primary youngs in 5 years?
Well, one of the things that we're saying is that children only have one chance at education. So, it's no good the government saying we'll invest in the future, we'll put money back in when we've got money, because for those children that are in the education system now, this is their only opportunity. If we take away things now, if we take away, support for children with special needs, if we take away arts teaching and music teaching, those children won't get a second chance at that. They won't get it. It'll be too late for them in 5 or 6 years' time, which is why this campaign and our campaign from the National Union of Teachers about funding for our schools is really important, because it's now. We need it to be resolved now, and we need the government to commit to funding our schools properly. Our children don't have a second chance.
Yeah, so it's nothing to delay, yeah?
No.
It's not a decision which can be delayed.
No.
And then say, well, we'll do it maybe in 5 years' time, because this generation between now and 5 years' time will be infected badly by the cutting fund.
Absolutely.
What I would like to discuss with you, Louise, as well, your perspective as a person away from education. Say you are not a teacher, say you are not in the education system, and you see what is happening about the cutting fund. How would you interpret it as a person?
I mean, I think certainly from our perspective as a union, we have had lots of support for this campaign. So from people who aren't teachers, and there's a very active parents campaign called Fair Funding for Schools, for all schools, which is run completely by parents, because parents understand that if school budgets are cut, the impact will be on their children. So I think whether you're a teacher or not, you understand that investing properly in education is a really important thing to do. And, you know, people keep, you know, the government will talk about, you know, we haven't got enough money or it's a burden, but it's not a burden. Education should be seen as an investment in our future. It shouldn't be seen as a burden on our society. The cost of education, a well-educated workforce and well-educated people is very important.
The argument, if it is not education, what else?
What if we fund education properly? What should we not fund?
So if you are taking the money from main services, which is education and NHS, what are you funding then? What do you think they are?
Well, you know, I think that there is. You know, the government has to make a decision about what its funding priorities are, and they clearly are spending money on certain things. So we know, for example, that they've spent quite a lot of money buying up land to build free schools. We think that money would be better going back into education, not being wasted on buying land for schools that may never be built. In some cases, when they are built, they close very quickly, and in some cases they'll be built in areas where schools aren't needed. So we think that there are examples where money is wasted now, which could be put back into education and into funding our schools that exist currently properly.
So if we said, and let me be radical or maybe pragmatic a little bit. If we take this money they put in the land to buy the school and give them now to the schools, what will happen?
What would happen to the schools? Well, the schools would be able to continue to employ support assistants for children that need it. They would have more money to buy resources. They would be able to have a broader curriculum. We wouldn't be losing teachers out of our schools.
Yeah. So it comes to my mind now while you were talking. If they are buying the lands to build a new buildings, new schools, don't they need the money for the buildings?
Well, absolutely. So where are they going to go?
So if you don't have the money, why do you buy the land?
Yeah, absolutely.
And so to me, it's not only the economic; it's something else going beyond there. And we have all to think. Well, what is? Are you thinking strategically? Are you thinking strategic manner, or you are just thinking about? Oh, I will do this. I will do it because I just want to do it. Going back to the march because it's my point, to be honest, and I'm really interested in that, and inshallah myself will be talking about this. But I want you to have a word with, you know, as the majority, we are in Iman FM, we are distributing the word to everybody, but our main listeners are the Muslims. And I want you to have this kind of special words to these people, especially the Muslim leaders, because Muslim leader can tell more people about the importance of education and the importance of supporting teachers who are fighting for fun. And we are religious communities, basically. The people will listen to religious leaders, maybe. So some words to the religious leader. What do you want to tell the religious leader
about the march?
Yes.
I mean, as I said really at the start, this is about us as teachers and as parents, if parents and other community members join us, saying that, you know, we've had enough. We want our schools to be properly funded. We're marching from Sheffield right through to Nottingham over 3 days, and we'll be stopping off at various points. And we have a Facebook page. We don't have a website, but we do have a Facebook page, and all of the information can be accessed on there, and people can message us, and it's just People's March for Education. If people type that into Facebook, they'd be able to get all the details, and if they've got questions they can ask on there, or they can send messages to the phone number that you gave out earlier. And what we want along the way is people to come out onto the streets and join us, but also to talk to their friends and colleagues about what's happening in schools. And the aim for us really is to highlight the cuts, but also, as we're moving about from Sheffield through to Nottingham, to be talking to people who are standing in the election, talking to candidates about what they're going to do if they get elected. Are they committed to restoring education funding?
It's very important, guys. Like what Louise is bringing two important ideas is not only the marching itself, is also speak to the people who you think you will give your voice. And in Islamic, from Islamic perspective, this is amana, this is a trust, that you have to give your voice to the right person who you think this person is going to support your children, support the future of your children, and support the future of the country itself. Having this voice, like this is the only thing you are fighting for is your voice, and this voice might be really important, because if you didn't really give it to the right person, the consequences of this would mean a lot to the children, and would mean a lot to the teachers who are basically fighting for your children. As a teacher, you have nothing to do with the fund, aren't you? You are the president of the union, and yourself, you will be there. As a teacher, you do your job, you're going to get your money, but you are worried about the children, isn't it? And
Absolutely.
Yeah. So this person, Louise, and then the teachers who are on her side, they are not fighting for themselves, guys. They are fighting for you. And as they are fighting for you, we call it the less thing you can do is just to give your voice to the right people who will support these teachers. Don't leave them alone in their battle, because their battle is not their battle, basically it's your battle and your children's battle, and it's the children's future as well. So fighting for understand first the importance of cutting the funds on, and the consequences of cutting the funds on the children, and the consequences of cutting the child education, and also understanding that your position, how important as a parent, as a religious leader. And I'm speaking now to my religious leaders who know that the word Iqra, read, is the first letter, the first word in Quran, in our holy book, and they need to know that being teacher is the job of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, peace upon him, and it was the job of Jesus and his followers as well. So from religious perspective as well, supporting teachers who are the voices, who are the links between the source of knowledge and children, is very important, because they are doing this for our children. Some of you might not agree with me that some teachers, they don't do the job as they are doing, as they should do it, but that doesn't mean you don't support these good voices who are fighting for you. Louise, you wouldn't be here if you didn't want these people to come and work for the fund, isn't it?
No, that's absolutely right. And as I say, it's about us all standing together, really, and that's why it's a half-term holiday, but there are teachers who are committed to coming out and walking quite a long way, just to raise awareness and say to people, these funding cuts will be bad for children, they'll be bad for schools.
Yeah, so basically, guys, think about it in a fair manner. Louise wouldn't be here and with us in the radio today. She's coming voluntary. She's coming to say something about her march, which is voluntary march. They are doing it from their house. They are leaving their holidays. The teachers are leaving their holidays. They are raising their voices. It's not for themselves, basically, because they can't find their own way. There is a lot of private school where they can teach. There are lots of private institution where they can find their own ways, as they've been there for a long time, and they can't find their way. It's about you and your children. And sorry, I'm losing my voice now. And if you couldn't show that solidarity, then there is here misunderstanding to the value of the people, of this the work of these people they are trying to do, and it's not fair on them, as it's not fair on your children as well, because if you didn't really stand for the issue of cutting fund, then you are not standing for your children. And if you thought that, well, okay, it will not influence my children because I have my children in private school, for example, and if you think you are on the safe side because you own the money, you have the money, you own the money, then I don't think this is a correct way of thinking, Louise, because as we have this proverb in Arabic I would like to share you with my audience as well. We say, I've been killed when the white buffalo was killed. What that proverb means, that if we didn't stand with each other together, then they will be targeted one by one. And if this education today, there will be something else tomorrow, and it will be something else after tomorrow. And this is because we didn't stand together from the beginning. And I see this in my people, I see this in my country. And I'm speaking from the very painful experience that when people, they don't stand with each other, and they fight for each other, and they think like when we fight we have to be back to back, you know, like I have put my back in your back and we fight always. So it's just for the sake of our being and the sake of our good deeds. So because we have a good deeds, all of us, and we want the education, we are not fighting for something bad, we are fighting for something good. And this might give, you know, it should give our people and the audience extra motivation. As you have this good heart, Louise, and I would like to celebrate it with you, sweetheart, and I'm really thankful for you coming today and speaking about the march, because the march to me is not political action. No, we are not speaking about politics here, but we are speaking about education, the core of our being, to learn. And as a teacher, I want to, from you, a final word, as you are really... I heard you, to be honest, when I was in the march last in the gathering a few weeks ago, couple of weeks ago.
Yeah.
And when I heard you speaking, and I saw that woman who is fighting for I am very feminine myself, and I saw that woman is fighting for the children and fighting for the right of education, and she's standing in front of all these people, and as my daughter say, stand on the crowd. From all this crowd and fighting for education is, I felt very bad if I couldn't, if I didn't support you, because your voice as a woman is there, and your voice as a teacher is there, and your enthusiasm is there, and I want this to be transferred to my audience, and they feel that. So what do you tell them now, Louise?
Well, I would tell them to get involved in whatever way they can. So if people do nothing, then we'll change nothing. But if every person just does one little thing, emails their MP, registers to vote, gives out some leaflets, talks to their neighbour and tells them to vote for education, if every single person that's listening does one little thing, then we could make a change. And it's only, as you say, I think it's really important that we work together. We're part of the same communities, and we should stand together and support and fight for proper funding for our education.
We are in the same boat, aren't we? If we think together. We will think together. If we survive, then we will survive together. And I want you to think about it. My audience is not about today. We are not speaking about the consequences of today only. The consequences will be very, very and very long way and a very long run. And what we are fighting for is to happen now. Like, we are not thinking about, well, you are not getting the fund today, then you in 5 years time, okay, you will bring the fund back. It's not going to happen. What is going to happen, it must happen now, but the consequences of not happening now will be for the future. So you can imagine how much consequences we will be suffering from cutting the fund on education. If you have anything against the cutting fund, just say it. Say, I am against cutting the fund. If you can't say it by writing, say it by your words. If you can't say it by your word, knock on your neighbor's door and say, do you know about the cutting fund? Do you know how this will influence on our children? Do you know, if you don't have children, think about your nephews. If you don't have your nephews, think about your sister-in-law's children. Think about your brother-in-law's children. Think about every child around you. It doesn't to be you who will be infected immediately, isn't it, Louise?
No,
so we have, Louise, you have children yourself, haven't you?
I do. I have 2 children. Yes, 2 daughters. Yeah.
Are they in the education?
One is older now. She's at work. So, it affects all of us. And even if you don't have children, you might have nephews or nieces, might be your grandchildren, or just friends of yours, their children. All of the young people, and it will impact upon.
So, and when you see that education is taken away from their hands, it's really painful. It's really it hurts when you see this is it's a right. It's a human right.
So it is.
It's the principle of human right. Every child has a right to educate, to be educated. Every child has a right to access to education. So I don't think one of the questions was in my mind and just come back again. It's like when you speak about the British value and the Christian value, and you see what's happening about the cutting fund. You see that there is what's happening, the British values, and what happened to these values, Louise.
Well, I think we should talk about values, and we should all have good, values. We should be respectful of other people, and we should be tolerant, and we should, you know, we should follow the laws and the rules that exist in our schools, in our country. We should do that. But as you say, every child has the right to education, and they, you know, across the globe, that's the position. We should have free, good quality education for all children, because we know that that's really important, and we know that the long-term impacts of those are good. You know, that if we give children access to good quality education, they become, you know, better adults in their communities.
You know what I've seen, that children, for example, in Iraq and Syria, who weren't able to access to education, they were in very area where the children didn't have education. They were very easy access to terrorism.
Right.
Because they were able to give them a gun and manipulate them and brainwash them, because they don't have education. They were easy to lead, and they were like small killers, young killers. They are worse than old killers, because they only believe what they have been told. And what I'm saying here is like putting away education away from children. So only Allah knows, only the Lord knows what are the consequences of this, and how the people interpret it. With this open social media and there as well, and people are interacting, and you don't know who is beyond the screen, and protecting the children from all this mess. With no education, the situation will be worse, and I don't think this is going to promote any kind of economic development to the country, and not going to help in any way. I would like to thank you very much, Louise, for attending today, and I know I take you away in your day out.
It's fine. It's been really interesting. Thank you very much for having me, and thank you for advertising the march.
Thank you very much, and it's my pleasure, and inshallah I will be there, guys. I will be there. If you would like to see me, you'll see me.
Yes, we would like to see you there.
You will see me in the march, and I will march, inshallah. And we will work. I will contact Louise, and if anyone would like to get leaflet as well, I will come to you, Louise. I will take leaflet, and I will leave it here in Iman FM. I will speak to Shahidi now. Maybe this is another way for the local people who can't really access to Louise. With your permission, I can come and collect some leaflets and put them here in the Iman radio. If anyone would like to come and collect some leaflets, that would be really great, and that will easy access. No excuses, guys. I will not. I will not give you no more excuses. And if we will keep reminding you, inshallah, every show, education is very important, and it's very important not for me. I've been educated enough. Education is important for you. It's important for your children. It's important for the peace, to live in peace and enjoy and celebrate the diversity, and enjoy us as a human being. So thank you very much for the great effort you are doing, Louise, and thank you, my audience. We are going toward the end of today's show. The time is flying very fast, Louise. It flies very fast, and I hope you enjoyed our show today. We will keep talking about education, and we will keep talking about learning, because learning you will never lose with learning. You will be always gaining when you are learning. And you heard our sister today speaking about the importance of respecting teachers and respecting the people who are giving you the access to education. Hearing our children think that they will cut their books after they finish schools must tell us a lot about what's happening in their brains, and how they are interpreting the pressure they've been through. You need to involve in your child education, and homeschooling is not about taking your child away from school. It's about teaching your child and contribute to their learning. Learning is gaining always. And Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh from Shahd Salha.
Online at www.imanfm.com, and on our app, you're listening to Iman FM.
सामीन अजीबकार अस्सलाम वालेकुम मैं राजा खुशनूद खान पेश करता हूं प्रोग्राम मसला क्या है हर जुमेरात शाम 6 बजे से 8 बजे तक